So before we get into today's video, I wanted to show you the roof. Now we did that, told you I'd talk about this. That's the roof regenerate. $2,500. The only reason I did it was the roofer recommended it. So I figured if the roofer felt it was worth the money, plus I don't have to get up there no more because it's going to kill the mold because the HOA gets on me. But I thought I'd show you this. I haven't killed them yet. The tomatoes, remember I told you we had to put a portion of those tomatoes down in the ground when you planted them, which is different. And then of course threw some Epsom salt in there. And so far so good. They're looking good. I still got to build the trellis. Of course, you know, when they did the roof, you know, one of the things that I have, and you might want to do this, is I have a rain barrel here in the back. Now I should have more than one, but unfortunately, the way the house was built, these downspouts come out and go underneath the ground and come out right there. So I can't really put a rain barrel on that spout. And there's one in the front, but it just would look ugly. But anyway, I didn't want the chemicals. This is an emergency water supply. It's also a water supply for watering the plants, you know, like my blueberry bushes and my pineapples. So it alternates, but occasionally you have to change, you know, clean that out, put some Clorox in there. I know drinking water, because, you know, and then of course, and then redo it. Because I mean, that water, if it sits in there stagnant for too long, you know, I wouldn't even trust it through a water filter. So that's a work in progress. I got to clean out that rain barrel. But anyway, just wanted to show you that. Obviously, I haven't gotten anything in here. You know, before I make these videos, one of the things I have to do is, you know, I make sure that all the stuff around the house, you know, God always says, before you can help others, you have to get your own house in order. So I have to make sure that all the dishes are clean. And you know what, I'm going to raise this up and let's look at the other side of the roof. Hold on one second. All right. I can't wait to see this video myself because I can't see what you're looking at right now. But let's keep it going. By the way, look at that sun. Pretty cool sky with the clouds. All right, let's get into the video. Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. April 22nd, 2025. Let's get into it. The first topic I wanted to talk about is it's always Democrats. Do you know who gets the most money from Big Pharma? Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and I can't remember the third person, but all Democrats. So when the reason I brought that topic up was the rumor that I heard is the Democrats are going to sue Robert Kennedy Jr. And you know the government because they want to investigate the cause of autism. Now, why would you want to sue somebody who just wants to get to the root cause of autism? Well, obviously they're getting money from big food, right? Because we don't know what the cause is. It could be pharmaceuticals, could be the food, could be you know, anything, or it could be the GMOs, these genetically engineered foods that the big ag is planting, or it could be a combination of all three. So you can see that that's the money supply for the Democrat Party. So they're going to do everything they can to block the FDA from trying to figure out what the cause of autism is. Blows my mind. And that's what, you got a Democrat neighbor, why don't you point that out to him? Say, why in the world would you want to sue, you know, the government trying to figure out, and by the way, the numbers that I'm getting, I had no idea so many children are having problems with autism. I mean, it's a huge number. And I can't imagine. So something bad. The other good news, since I'm on this topic, was the FDA has announced within a year that Big Food has to remove the artificial dyes from our food, like the yellow dye, the red dye, you know, and do what Europe does and use natural colorants like carrot juice and things like that. There's about, if I can get the list, there was about 6 different dyes that they use in American food. And they've got a year gave them a year to do it, which surprised me they gave them so long. But, you know, the thing is, the government shouldn't even have to tell them not to put dye. These are petroleum-based dyes, man. You know that they're evil in your food. You know, and it's the fact that the government has to tell them to remove it tells you how much the big food cares about you and me. I mean, oh my God. Oh, geez. And I'm sure Democrats are going to fight them on that too, because that's who Democrats are. Democrats want you dead. Do you understand that? The Democrat is the mafia. What do you think they want to bring back gang members from El Salvador? Because they want you dead, man. A lot of Americans can't accept that. You got a Democrat neighbor, they want you dead. Okay? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know, if they're still voting Democrat, you know they're anarchists. I've done a video on anarchy. They're masochist. You know, look at Canada. If they elect that prime minister in Canada, I had a video on that from Viva Frei. But you know what? Just go watch Viva Frei. Because I was going, you know, I don't know about you. I couldn't give a crap about Canada. I'm down here in Florida for, I mean, maybe when I was in Michigan, I cared a little bit about Canada. But the Canadians got to be, they're your meat puppets for sure. I mean, if they elect this guy, I mean, the guy was, I watched the video, it was just him. He couldn't define what a woman was. He couldn't say whether you didn't want women in men's sport. I mean, men and women's sports. I mean, it's so ridiculous the stance that this guy has, and that Canada's going to vote him in. All right, that's enough on Canada. Sorry, I got off on a tangent there. But I do have a video because I like to give you both perspectives, you know. And it's a video by Steve Bannon. Now, I wanted to talk about Trump in a bad way for just a little bit. Because right now, on Saturday, we're going to have negotiations with Iran to denuclearize Iran. Okay, and everybody says, oh, that's going to be a good thing. Well, what about denuclearizing Israel? From what I understand, they got 30 atomic weapons, 30 nuclear bombs. Why aren't we worried about Israel having the bomb, huh? Oh, they're our ally. They're not our ally, man. You understand that? They are not going to be riding to our rescue if something happens to the United States. We are just meat puppets for Israel to jerk around. And McGregor, I was watching a video by him before I came out, and he thinks that we're going to war with Iran. And man, you want to talk about one huge mistake that Trump's going to make. I mean, he's making big mistakes now. Big mistakes. I mean, if we go to war with Iran, and by the way, why would Iran give up? You know, because I understand that, you know, they want a nuclear energy. I have no problem with that. I don't want them to have the bomb. But look at what we did to Libya. When Libya disarmed, and because they were trying to get on the gold standard there, we killed Gaddafi and threw Libya into chaos. Look what we did to Iraq. Once Iraq gave up, you know, their weapons of mass destruction, Bush went in there and lied to everybody and said, oh no, they didn't give them up. When we knew that they had, Scott Ritter was over there looking at and said that they have no weapons of mass destruction. We went in there and obliterated Iraq. Will be years before they recover. So, and then look at what we did to Syria. We put terrorists in charge of Syria and took down the government. Syria was a very peaceful place. And there's a lot of biblical history, surrounding history for Christians. And we destroyed all of that. So Iran, you know, looking around, if I was Iran, I'd be saying, look at what happened to Libya. Look at what happened to Iraq. And look what happened to Syria when they went along with the United States disarming them. I don't think we're going to go down that route. Do you? Would you do it? Hell no. I'd say, bring it on, U.S. We're going to war, baby. And those 50,000 troops you've got in the Middle East, they're dead. They're all dead. You want to see what Israel looks like when it's on fire? We're going to set it on fire. You want to see what our air defenses are? Bring it on. Now, you say, oh, well, they don't have those kind of weapons. That cybersecurity guy, they don't have that. Look at when Russia first got into the war with Ukraine. Where were they getting their drones from? Iran. And those drones were pretty damn advanced. And Iran's done nothing but improve on those drones. I don't know if they're still supplying drones to Russia anymore, because I don't think Russia needs them. Russia has their own drone program. But at the beginning of the war, Russia, I mean, nobody knew that drones were going to play such a vital role in this war in Ukraine. I mean, my God. And see, that was another huge mistake that Trump made. He didn't, he should have, day one, when he got in office, he should have said, this is the Democrats' war, not Biden. He keeps saying Biden's war. It's the Democrats' war, the warmongering Democrats. They're the ones who started this thing. They've had a hand in the war in Ukraine. They had a hand giving Ukraine the most powerful military in Europe at the time when the war started. They did all of that. He should have said, it's a Democrat war. I'm walking away. He didn't. He owned it. He now owns the war. And guess what? Russia ain't backing down. Ukraine days are numbered. Okay? I'm watching the front lines crumbling all across the board. And right now, Russia has 2 major armies ready to advance into Ukraine and end this thing once and for all. It'll be over by the end of the summer for sure, if not sooner. Because right now, I'm seeing, in fact, you can look at Kursk. 75,000 dead Ukrainians in that operation. For what? To take a little bit of land in Russia so that you can get political brownie points and show the world and say, look, we attacked Russia. Oh yeah, you lost everything. Russia's taking it all back. And now they're taking territory in Ukraine across the border. So we're 2 huge mistakes. Trump's going to go to war with Iran, and he didn't walk away from Ukraine. So now he's going to own it. And the only thing he can do is, and from what I understand, because Russia's not giving up on their position. Remember what and that's why I keep saying it's not a war, it's a special military operation. Okay? Special military operation. And what were the goals? Number 1, free the Donbass, demilitarize Ukraine, and denazify Ukraine, which means a new government in Ukraine. And in my last video, I told you that the Ukrainians are atheists. They've banned Christianity in Ukraine, and yet Christians are over here going, let's support them. It's kind of like the Catholic Church. I can't keep harping on the Catholic Church because, the Pope being dead and all, that Pope had to know that the Catholics were making money trafficking humans into the United States. There's no way those NGOs weren't giving money back to the Vatican. No way, no how. That's who you want to lead your church? A human trafficker? A child trafficker? The leader of the Catholic Church? I don't understand why anybody wants to be a Catholic. I wouldn't do it just on that alone. Oh man, I'm sorry I'm getting off on a tangent. Let's watch the first video. This is give you a different slant on Trump, because I like to give you both sides. Let's watch that.
The New York Times had a story yesterday, Jack, that was jaw-dropping but not surprising. And that is Bibi, because it was kind of fishy. He came for these 2 meetings, and he literally shows up. And I think this is a problem for people like ourselves that support Israel. He shows up. He's got a bombing plan. He's ready to roll. They're going in mid-May, and they're kind of, they need Trump to sign off on it, right? They need Trump to sign. This is why, and I don't know this from inside fact, but I can tell, this is why Trump walks in the first time and says, hey, we're going to go Trump Gaza. That thing, you see Bibi's look on his face, and they do the formal press conference later. The second time Bibi shows up, it's supposed to be about tariffs. We now know from the New York Times, he's pushing, as we said on the show, to start bombing immediately and wants American help because he can't do it by himself. And Trump there in front of him announces, hey, we're having we're going to have a one-on-one negotiation. You are not going to be in the room, but we're going to do it in Oman, and we're starting on Saturday, which is clearly a shock to him. Jack Posobiec, to connect all these dots, and particularly, I think people should be quite upset of Bibi pushing this as hard as he's pushing it, and give props to the commander-in-chief, President Trump, who's got so much of the world on his shoulders right now, just saying, yo, cool it, right? I got other things I'm working on. Jack Posobiec.
Steve, what President Trump did last year in the United States of America, this victory that carried from coast to coast, the massive wave that we saw of patriotism outpouring throughout the country, was predicated on three major issues. Number one, trade. And he said tariffs over and over and over. He said we are going to fix trade and fix the economy. Number two, immigration. We're going to fix the border, deport illegals, and he's been executing on those two. And number three was stopping World War III. And we remember all of the drumbeat for World War III. Now, they were talking about Russia, but they were also discussing Iran. And President Trump went out to every stage he could find and said no more wars. He even went on stages, or one of them, as we saw, they tried to take him out in Butler, Pennsylvania, but God prevented that. And while he was up there, what was he talking about? No more immigration, deporting illegals, and no more war. So what did President Trump do when he was elected? He put together the greatest assemblage of patriots that this country has ever seen since the days of Washington and Madison and Jefferson and Franklin and our founding fathers. And they came together finally from all across the political aisle. And you've got former Democrats and former independents and Greens and all the rest of it coming in. And what united this coalition? It was those three issues, and particularly as well, the Maha issue, which eventually came on. But threading through all of that was peace.
All right. So that was, Bannon, and it gave you a little different perspective on how some people are seeing Trump. Instead of being a warmongering fool that he's going to be if he does go to war with Iran. Because, Iran, you think oil prices are high now? Oh my God. If we bomb Iran, I can't wait to see what the oil prices are going to be. Luckily, I have an electric car, but even electricity is going to go up because, imagine some electricity is produced by the way, on the way here, I did want to talk about this just one second, just getting off on a weird tangent, because I don't know what it's like where you are. But man, oh man, Ocala's been growing like crazy ever since COVID. I mean, the whole damn world's been moving to my town here, and traffic's getting bad. But one of the things I've been impressed with is Duke Energy. They are really, really improving their infrastructure. On my way here, you know how you got those old wooden telephone poles, and you always wonder because they rot out actually fairly quickly. I imagine about every 5-10 years, you got to replace those. Well, they're putting in these huge metal telephone poles. I mean, I bet if a car hit one of those, it would go right through the car. I mean, it wouldn't do no damage to this metal. These metal poles are going to be around, I imagine, for 100 years. I mean, that is, and also they're way up high so that they don't have to worry about tree limbs falling on the power lines. And then behind my house, they actually buried the electrical wires in the ground so that they won't have to worry about the trees falling on them. So anyway, I got off on that tangent because I was looking at those metal telephone poles and I was thinking, why don't they do this everywhere? I mean, it's got to be expensive, right? I don't know. And I showed you my roof. By the way, they said it'd take a week for that stuff to dry. So I was hoping it doesn't rain for a few more days, but boy, we do need some rain here in Florida. All right, I got another video from Victor David Hanson that I wanted to show you. I thought this was very interesting where he's talking about the Ivy League schools. And well, the video just speaks for itself. I don't need to tell you that the Ivy League schools have gone to hell in a handbasket and that everybody, 95% of the professors there are liberal Democrat idiots. I mean, God, what person would want to send their child to Duke or Harvard or Yale? I mean, I wouldn't, and plus the expense, but those schools, and evidently the federal government, the Department of Education was giving them money. What the hell do they need money for? You ever seen the tuition to those schools? Plus they've got endowments up the wazoo. They got all the money you could ever possibly need. Our U.S. taxpayers don't need to fund these damn schools. Anyway, let's just watch Victor David Hanson. Let's watch that now.
Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. I want to talk about a little esoteric topic very quickly. Law schools, specifically our so-called elite law schools, Harvard Law School, Yale Law School, Stanford Law School, UC Berkeley's law school. I know you think, well, who cares? Well, we should care. If we look at all of these district judges that are issuing injunctions against Trump, or we look at many of the most powerful people in the Obama or Biden DOJ, or even anybody's DOJ, or if we look at these PACs and political organizations that are trying to influence public opinion and look at the lawyers, we find these law schools, Yale, Harvard, Stanford, Duke, mentioned all the time. And the problem with them is that they're no longer empirical. About 95% of their faculties are Democratic or left-wing. And more importantly, they have started to do things they didn't do in the past. They've lowered their admission standards, and they have become politicized, and they've been recipients of large amounts of foreign cash. Let me give you a few examples. As we speak right now, Harvard University got together a group of its radical law students for a complete weekend-long session. You know what they were doing? They were trying to collectively go into Wikipedia and warp the descriptions of major law firms that had said to Harvard, if you continue the anti-Semitism that is endemic on campus in general and at the law school in particular, we may not want to hire you. So they were retaliatory, and they were going through their entire caseload to try to damage them in the public eye on Wikipedia. At the same time this was happening, though, Harvard was always traditionally ranked, along with Yale or Stanford, number 1, number 2. It dropped out of the top 5. It dropped out of the top 5 by the U.S. News and World Report rankings, which kind of polls admissions officers and tries to get the general opinion of the relative merit of each of these law schools. And it reflects something else that was going on to Harvard. Harvard has a traditional math class that's very difficult that most undergraduates are supposed to take, but they couldn't pass it. So now Harvard, because they have changed their admissions, and remember for 3 or 4 years, like other campuses, they didn't rate comparative GPAs or really require the SAT. They have to have remedial math at Harvard. And what am I getting at? These law schools then, by changing their curricula to DEI and to changing their admissions policy, where they were not looking at the LSAT or grade point averages, and the way they used to say was important. And more importantly, in garnering huge amounts of money from the Middle East, Qatar in particular. If you go back to any news account from 2010 to 2020, it's all about Qatar and Middle East money pouring into places like Harvard Law School. So what am I getting at? They created people who, under their own students, under their own requirements a decade or 2 earlier, wouldn't have qualified. They changed their curriculum, and they became politicized, and especially they reflected the interest of radical groups in the Middle East. And the result is law firms, when they see the recent graduates, they get disappointed. I want to just end with Stanford Law School. They follow that same trajectory. And in 2022, only about 84% passed the bar on the first try. 5 other law schools. This was when Stanford was rated 2 in the country. USC had a much higher rate. Stanford went into full panic. They said, oh my gosh, the post-George Floyd admissions, the change in the curriculum, our students are not passing. We've got over 15% flunked the bar from Stanford. And by the way, the California bar had lowered its standards, and it had itself become woke. So what did Stanford do? Well, very quietly, they began to readjust their admissions policy. They began to get more, not a lot, but 2, 3, 4 conservative or at least middle-of-the-road law professors, and they began to crack down on radical student activism. This year, 95% passed just 2.5 years later, 2024. So what am I getting at? The law schools are very important. They're very politicized, and they went in a politicized ideological direction rather than empiricism and traditional law curriculum. And the result is that law firms and agencies look at these law graduates and they're not impressed. And that's why, for example, Vanderbilt is starting to surge up to 14. Cornell is going down to 18. And we're watching a very interesting transformation.
All right. So that was a good video. We're getting a lot. By the way, we should be able to get a sunset on this video because I came out here really, really late. I don't know what it's like where you are, but the sun is not setting until about 8 or 9 o'clock here in Florida. So I have to, I had to get a late start. Plus, the thing I like about coming out here at this late, because it's about 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, is that, we hopefully will get some wildlife on the video because the all comes out in the evening. Plus, it's a lot cooler. If you come out in the noonday heat and you're hiking, that's pretty rough. And then the mornings are good because you do get the wildlife, but the ground is wet and nasty. And then as the things heat up, you're walking in a steam bath. Whereas in the evening, it's pretty nice. I just wish we had a breeze right now. All right, so we'll get on some more topics here in just a minute as I think of them. All right, stay tuned to the video because we're going to talk about food and some things that you probably want to know. And people are enjoying the health portion of the video. So each day I'm going to try to include something that you might want to know about as far as food is concerned, or, cancer, or, anything that might benefit you in some way, shape, or fashion. But I got another video here. This is Steve Bannon. He said that see, another huge mistake Trump's making. He's letting the lawfare stop a lot of his agenda. Okay, you don't have to listen to these judges. He can suspend habeas corpus and just start. And McGregor, put it bluntly, we got to get these illegal criminals out of the country. The damage they're doing, not only are they draining Social Security and our medical. I mean, you think about it. They're getting free health care. They don't have health insurance when they're clogging up our emergency rooms. We're spending a ton of money, and it's all by design because the Democrats want to destroy the United States. A lot of people keep thinking, oh no, they don't want to. They imported 20 million illegal aliens, man. And so the only way we're going to get rid of them is just start mass deportations. And but Trump doesn't seem to want to do that. But let's watch that video now.
What do you do when your own intelligence apparatus around the president is trying to undercut him so he has no standing in the court when he does exactly what you say he has to do, which is suspend habeas corpus and start rolling him out of here, brother?
Well, is that the same deep state that indicted him 4 times? We don't care what they say, okay? We have common sense. We watched our country be invaded for 4 years by 10 to 15 million illegal aliens, many of them men of fighting age, okay? And when I say suspend the writ, not only is this a constitutional power in Article 1, Section 9, but we're not even suspending it for American citizens, okay? There's none of that. These are illegal aliens. They do not have a right to be here. They get deported. If the courts want to stop us, we go around the courts by using constitutional authority to do so. And the president who used this the most is the Democrats' favorite president of all time, FDR. Okay? FDR used it, Abraham Lincoln used it, and Ulysses S. Grant used it. And you know what? They're all their faces are on our money. Okay? They ended up being pretty good looking in historical hindsight, and Trump has the chance to do that. We have to normalize this. You cannot allow 20 million illegal aliens to invade our country and allow them to stay. This is an invasion. That is what an invasion is. Time to start taking drastic action. I understand what President Trump is doing. He's going through the process. He's exposing that Democrat Marxist judges are going to stop him every step of the way. At a certain point, I feel he's going to have no decision but to do this. And you know what? If he stands strong and he does it, he'll win in a landslide in the midterms, because this is what Americans want on both sides of the aisle.
All right, so that was talking about habeas corpus. The other story that's been in the news, and the reason why I started out talking about Iran, was, I don't know if you knew, but Hexeth, he's been under fire for that whole signal gate, which is stupid. I couldn't care less. I mean, yeah, okay, some of the material was classified. Good God, you wouldn't believe the classified material that I carted around Washington, D.C. back in the day. A lot of it was compromised, so who cares? Anyway, and we haven't been able to keep a secret in this country. Why do you think that Russia got the nuclear bomb right after we got it? Because we can't keep a secret in this country, so who cares? But anyway, Hexeth perp walked 3 people out and said that they were a part of leaks going out. And then Tucker, I thought, oh, wow, it's good. He's cleaning house. But then Tucker Carlson, which you ought to watch it, he did an interview with one of the people that was fired. And man, I kind of believe the guy. He said, no, we didn't reveal anything. He said, now what's being speculated is that they were the team that teamed up along with Tulsi Gabbard and, damn it, and J.D. Vance, that they were the ones who talked Trump out of bombing Iran, at least for temporarily anyway. And because they took a stance against Israel, because Pete Hexeth is a big Zionist, all right, and I think even Hexeth was against bombing Iran, that's why they got perk walked out of the out of the Defense Department, or out of the Pentagon, excuse me. So anyway, you make of that what you will. So it seems to me that they're cleaning house of anybody that doesn't want to go to war with Iran, which is an extremely bad thing. That means that they are going to go to war with Iran. So we'll see how that all turns out. I don't think a single war, now think about it. We went to war in Afghanistan. How did that turn out? We went to war in Iraq. How did that turn out? We went to war in Syria. How did that turn out? We went to war in Libya. How did that turn out? We went to war in Serbia. How did that turn out? We went to war against Russia. How did that turn out? Now we're going to go to war against Iran. Seems to me the U.S. is not bad. Oh, Vietnam, let's not forget Vietnam or the Korean War. Now, we've got to look at those two. So the U.S. ain't doing too good every time it goes to war. I don't know. We'll see how things turn out with Iran. Let's get this sit-down portion of the video, and we'll talk about some food here in just a minute. All right, let's enjoy that view for just a minute. Isn't that beautiful? So we're going to get into the next portion of the video here. Right when I was getting ready to make the video, the doggone stupid child abduction alarm goes off. You want to talk about child abduction? Why don't you arrest somebody in the Catholic Church for all of their child trafficking, huh? Instead of sending me a stupid alert about a kid who knows where they're at or what's going on. All right, I'm sorry, I just get annoyed at the stupidity of people, and I'm going to get way back here so that you can enjoy the view. Let's see if I got to see if, there we go. Now we're centered. Got the sun right behind me, right behind the camera, so it should be a good view of what you're seeing behind me. So this is from Craig Brocky. Says, you've been lied to. The FDA doesn't want you healthy. They want you sick, fat, and stressed out. Here are 14 nutrition myths that are forced down your throat. Myth number 1. Trying to make sure I'm centered on the camera here. I'm probably not. Myth: eggs raise your cholesterol. Truth: eggs do not cause high cholesterol and heart disease for most people. Eggs are nutrient dense, rich in amino acids and vitamins D and B12. They are a great source of protein. And then they've got a video here.
All day, every day eggs, because eggs, even though they contain cholesterol, do not raise your cholesterol. Remember, 85% of the cholesterol in your bloodstream comes from your liver. Only 15% of the cholesterol in your blood comes from diet. So if you eliminated all the cholesterol in your diet, you'd only affect your cholesterol level by 15%.
All right, myth number 2, you should drink 8 glasses of water daily. Truth: hydration needs differ for everyone. Trust your thirst and the water content in foods over rigid rules. I also recommend taking electrolytes if you're drinking enough but still thirsty. Man, I didn't bring no water today. This is making me thirsty just reading this. I shouldn't come out here without water because it gets the throat dry. But there's a video for there. Okay, let's watch that.
Did you know that drinking 8 glasses of 8 ounces of water is actually a myth? Your body is actually very in tune with knowing when you are dehydrated and need water. If you're thirsty, that's a good signal to drink some water. But other than that, you don't need to worry about getting your 8 glasses in every day. It's good to be hydrated, but you don't need to overdo it. You don't need to stress about those 8 glasses.
Myth, breakfast is the most important meal. Truth, timing isn't everything. Delaying or skipping breakfast can help regulate hunger. What you eat is much more important than when you eat. Eating a bowl of cereal in the morning isn't going to make you healthy. Let's watch that now.
Fast or fiction? Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Fiction, your fast breaker is the most important meal of the day. Breakfast implies that you're eating that first thing in the morning, the first meal of the day. Well, in a way, the first meal of the day is still important if you're fasting. It's just coming after you break your fast. Breakfast is just ingrained in our minds as what we eat right when we get out of bed. And realistically, there are multiple studies that prove that's just not the case. You can lose just as much weight, you can be just as healthy, if not even more healthy, by skipping breakfast than you can if you eat it. Breakfast is simply something that was popularized by the cereal companies, and it makes perfect sense as to why. There's different benefits with different fast breakers at various times of the day. So one fast breaker might not be the perfect meal for morning, but it might be the perfect meal for breaking your fast in the afternoon. For some people, eating earlier in the day and then fasting the rest of the day is a terrific strategy. So to learn more about early time-restricted feeding, check out the video that we did with Dr. Peter Attia.
Okay, and by the way, there are healthy cereals that, because the cereals that are just read the box. If it's full of sugar, don't buy it. That's all I got to say. Captain Crunch, for example, I wouldn't be buying that for you kids. Myth, all protein sources are equal. Truth, plant-based protein sources have a much weaker effect in the body due to their unbalanced amino acid profiles. Animal proteins, especially eggs, are utilized far better for producing muscle, bone, hormones, and neurotransmitters. We got a video.
Protein is not created equal. This is because different foods have different protein digestibility scores. If you're a nerd like me, this is a score that determines the quality of a protein based on the amino acid profile and ability to digest it, making some foods like these chicken nugget babies have a high score while other foods like rice do not. This is just scientific jargon, so what can you take away? Just make sure that most of your protein comes from high quality sources.
All right, let's keep going. Myth number 5, all calories are created equal. Truth, where your calories come from matters. 300 calories of chicken affect your body differently than 300 calories of ice cream. Let's watch that video.
All calories are created equal. Our body uses protein different than it uses carbs and fat.
Sure.
So we're not a low carb diet because we need carbs. We need carbs to fuel our bodies and our brains. But if we are more protein forward, that we think about protein first, our bodies actually are using protein in a different way, so they're not exactly the same.
Yeah, totally. And I would say too, like I'm always going to move more towards the adherence factor as well.
Yes.
Where it's like, yeah, all calories aren't created equal when it comes to adherence, right? Sticking to something. If you eat protein instead of, let's say, just straight sugar, you're going to stay fuller longer, making it easier for you to be in a caloric deficit.
All right, so we're gonna do 6 today, and I'll save the other 6 for a future video because I don't want this video to get too long. We'll just do number 6 here, and that'll be it. Myth number 6: eating 5 or 6 meals boosts metabolism. Truth: meal frequency doesn't affect the metabolism. It's about overall calorie and nutrient intake. Most people actually do better with intermittent fasting to give your organs a chance to reset and digest. Let's watch that video.
Do you think eating 6 meals a day speeds up your metabolism? Well, here's the truth. Many lifters force themselves into high-frequency eating for better results. But does eating more often actually lead to better fat loss or muscle growth? Studies show that 3 to 6 meals a day yield similar muscle growth results when protein and calories are equated. I personally have 4 to 5 meals a day, but find what works best with your lifestyle. Make sure to share this with someone who's obsessed with prepping 6 meals a day. And if you want me to bust more myths like this, make sure you give me a follow.
All right, we'll probably get something on the way back. Peace out. Stay free. All right, let's get some nature on the video. You're gonna see the picture up above, but I thought this was hilarious because we were talking about this. And it's from the Babylon Bee. I love the Babylon Bee. The Dalai Lama quietly cancels scheduled meeting with J.D. Vance. If you didn't know, Vance met with the Pope before he died. I guess he converted to Catholicism, which, I don't think he knows that the Pope was a child trafficking lunatic, but, he should. So anyway, because that's part of Trump's agenda is to find all those lost kids and and of course deport all of the illegal aliens, hopefully. Probably, maybe not. The other one I wanted to hit on was, I listen to, right-wing radio when I'm doing these hikes, because sometimes you get me a tidbit of news that I wanted to relay onto you. And Levin just threw out the number. It's 40% of children today have an ailment of some kind. Now, I don't know what the percentage is that relates to autism, but can you imagine that 40% of our kids are sick and the Democrats don't even want to look into it? They're going to sue because we're going to look into what's causing all of this, havoc to our children. Unbelievable. You want to be hanging around a Democrat? Not me, man. I don't ever want to see a Democrat anywhere near me. The other little tidbit of news that I thought was interesting was school loans. Looks like Trump's going to crack down on those. Biden was trying to buy votes by forgiving all the student loans, and it almost worked, but it was unconstitutional. You can't do that. But it looks like Trump is going to instructing the Treasury Department to start garnishing wages and things to collect on those student loans. And I think that's good. Any kid that goes out and, racks up $80,000 in debt to go to an Ivy League school or whatever, sorry, man, you signed the paper, you signed the contract, you got to pay it back. That's just the nature thing. And supposedly that education was worth all of that money because you're going to be able to make enough money to pay that loan back, right? Wrong, probably wrong. The last thing I wanted to hit on was Iran. Let's get a look over here where the sun is peeking through. Isn't that beautiful? Let's get a picture of the sun. All right, hold on. Yeah, there it is in the sky. Yeah, and kind of bright to be looking at it. This is just where we're heading down the trail, but we'll get back over here because the lighting is so good for you to see what it looks like. But I wanted to talk about Iran one more time. Now, McGregor's been pointing out that he doesn't think that Russia and China are going to sit idly by when we go to war with Iran. So, because right now China's heavily dependent on Iran for their oil, okay? And if we cut off that oil supply, that's going to hurt China big time. So not only would we be we're already at war with Russia, so it doesn't matter there, but we would be taking on directly China and Iran. And of course, I'm sure that Russia, where they can, they'll help Iran out also. So really, we'd be declaring war on about half the world if Trump goes along with this bombing of Iran. So let's hope that the cooler heads can prevail and Tulsi and J.D. Vance can talk him out of it, and we can just, because, honest to God, I do believe that Russia would help us verify that Iran is not working on a nuclear weapon, or that they don't do it, or that they're not enriching the uranium up to a level, because Russia, they don't want a nuclear weapon on their doorstep. It'd be like us wanting, Mexico to have a nuclear weapon. Heck no. So Russia could probably go in there with us, it's in a team, and just keep an eye on things. Go back to the original agreement that just says that Iran can't enrich uranium up to the point where they can build a nuclear weapon. And I think Iran would probably go along with that because they want to remain friends with Russia. They don't want to make an enemy out of Putin and Russia. So anyway, that's just my slant on it. So I would tell Trump to thread carefully all of the Zionists in his administration that are trying to get him to bomb Iran. This ain't going to be like bombing Yemen. This Iran is no pushover. It's not going to be like going to war with Iraq. Iran's a lot bigger than Iraq, and it's got a lot of mountainous territory, a lot of places to hide those rockets and all their weaponry. Anyway, and they've shown videos of everything underground anyway. So unless you're going to hit them with nuclear weapons, and even then, I don't think you get all the rockets. And then you think the world's going to stand by and watch us nuke Iran? I don't think so. Could be the end of all of us. I just wanted to get this nature shot on the video. This is a portion of the forest I don't usually hike. But they had mowed all this down. And man, look at how it's come back. Isn't that beautiful? Anyway, Mark Levin was just talking about some interesting things. I didn't have any idea, but the Japanese have just deployed a railgun on one of their, on one of their warships. And from what I understand, they're testing it out. That's pretty cool. Remember in the movies, the railguns? And then Israel is actually deploying a laser system within the Iron Dome to shoot down missiles. Now, the problem with lasers has always been, if you've ever studied physics, is the refraction in the atmosphere. And we've had, little pinpoint lasers for doing eye surgery and things like that. Well, the Israelis evidently have expanded on that. And what it is the laser is actually many different lasers, all very small beams. Okay, and when one beam locks onto the target, all the little beams shift onto that target to destroy it. And what they're saying is that they're pretty far along with the development of that technology. Anyway, I just wanted to get this nature shot. Look at that, isn't that just beautiful? Man, I just enjoy this hike. I really do. Look at that, going back that way. All right. I know this video is getting long, but look at that sky. Isn't that wild looking? Just beautiful. Let's go all the way around. Look back there. That is awesome, man. But I hit that view right there. And that was when I said, man, I got to turn on the camera. All right. See why I come out in the evening? Look at that sunset. I'm going to get to enjoy that on the way back. I know people want to watch the sunrise. I don't know. Too many backpacking trips where I sat out on the Lake Superior and watched the sunset. Sunsets to me are much more beautiful. It's a little further along on the trail, a little different view of the sunset. I would hang out, but I'm thirsty. Time to get home. Plus, at some point, I got to make this video. All right, peace out. Stay free.